The lobby, the battle bus is ready. The players are excited to get a start. Who will be victorious here in game one?
Yeah, and I like the way we're all kind of talking about it, whether it's before the show, during the show, after the show, this new age of Fortnite that we're seeing. Being consistent is just not enough. You need to kind of match that top placing with aggression. We saw a little bit yesterday with NAE's players taking over their own destiny, and I expect the same thing here as Neb, Pink, they qualified. This is their first time here in the finals. Another team, I expected them last week, but with this time around, they have a chance to really have a great game. They're uncontested, they're looting up, and they're setting themselves off right.
A fight I'm very excited to watch throughout the day, though. When it comes to Mighty Pelican and Hardfine, they're going to be up against Mesa. And it's not going to be an easy fight, I'll tell you that much. Mesa already having some problems. Voltex is going to have to come to his rescue. An interesting thing about this fight, Jacob, that a lot of people don't know, Mesa's actually my former duo.
Ooh.
Yeah, man.
So if he does good, you taught him everything. That's basically what you're kind of saying right now.
Everything you know.
Only time will tell if it really is. But right now, unlike yesterday in the same landmark, they're kind of trying to split as much of it as they can before they finally go in for the chase. As Mighty Pelican trying to sneak in, get the angle. Piece control in this situation is going to be crucial for anybody's survival. As you see them trying to build up, take the high ground. I like this. They're taking certain pieces around this spot from different elevations. That way, they can use the different angles to their advantage.
Yeah, you see how difficult it's going to be if you're Voltex, right? Not many opportunities for him to actually farm and get any mats. Just going to have to rely on this pistol. We know it can do a lot, and a lot it will do. Hardfine, all them shields gone.
Yeah, he does have some extra minis towards the bottom. Mighty Pelican stepping in just a little too far. He goes down. Really have to rethink that one. Is Hardfine really has a decision to make. Do I hold this spot, try to go ahead and put the team on my back, or do I try to disengage, refine the reboot card later on?
Yeah, and even without the mats, Voltex and Mesa hitting big shots there, right? And so in some of these early off-spawn battles, even if you ain't got the resources, if you do hit your shots, if you do have good aim, you will survive. And of course, speaking of good aim, it doesn't get much better than Thomas HD. Only hitting the one shot there.
Those are crucial adjustments as you see them closing in on the distance. Last week, they were suffering down on Surge a lot. Forced with the backs up against the wall to make some aggressive plays that may not have been the best, but this time around, they're trying to solidify some early game Surge, make a team caught out in the open by themselves, and try to take advantage while they can. But you see the third-party shots beginning to come in.
Yeah, and look, the way they set up this fight wasn't any sort of standard way, right? They looked to pinch, right? Both coming from different sides. These guys had no idea which way to look in terms of where they were getting shot from. Of course, now they're grouping up as the pace of the fight will slow down a bit. Ain't gonna get too fast, too hot at all.
You can already see them kind of disengage right there. High reaction third is gonna live to tell. You see Vexy and the Bull in another close range fight right off the POI. Not a lot of builds to work with, but he's landing the shots that matter. Doesn't matter how many resources you have. If you're just taking them down in one shot each, that's all you need.
Yeah, that heavy shotgun ain't too bad when you pick up off spawn. Really, really nicely done, right? Both shots hit with precision. And now Vexy and the Buell have a chance to play this game out, of course. Still have to be on the alert. There's always going to be people in this area.
And Alex and Snazzy, uncontested this time around. Snazy, excuse me there. And this is going to be a great opportunity for them because last week they were going against Janice and Reason, off spawn. They were able to get their surge very, very early on. So some of these teams, contested unlike last week, uncontested unlike last week, those are some real changes that they're going to have to make. And you can already see not spending too much time looting up in their exact landmark. They're immediately trying to go elsewhere and find the surge tag. So that way they can focus on rotation the later this game goes.
Yeah, of course, you have to be very efficient in your loot path and how quickly you can get out of your POI and start finding players to take shots at and start dealing damage. If you aren't contested, that is. Of course, you never want to be falling behind on Surge, and that's exactly the reason why we're seeing Tayson here where he is. Of course, Tayson and Mustache, they land north side of Slaffy, but you can already see so early into the game, Tayson is venturing a bit north, realizes that there's opportunities for players in this area that he can take shots on from afar. Even if he doesn't connect and get an elimination out, right, Jacob? The damage he deals will go a long way for this team.
Yeah, this is some of the most prolific, high-caliber players that we've seen. They know how to play throughout the different scenarios. Storm Surge, getting the damage early on is like a cushion. You're giving yourself more room to work with, more flexibility to kind of have different play styles throughout the game. You don't have to focus on just trying to beam a player or jump into a box. And a team is known for their passive gameplay. We saw them ramp it up last week, 12 eliminations with the Victory Royale, Seti and Cammy. And that's what we kind of talk about. It's that placement, that consistency isn't just enough throughout the day. The next 6 games, I'm going to be looking at them to see how they handle a lot of this pressure. Just like Marius, Frednix over here, they have the high ground. They're building themselves a tower in the sky. And you can see that one player is looting up, getting resources, while the other one has their 2 different roles, just getting the surge that they need as a team.
Yeah, they have to be careful though, because Chari and Giras are around and might look to initiate some sort of a battle. For Kylie and Vico though, we didn't necessarily see at the start of this game, but I believe they are contested on the south side of Slappy. It looks like they were able to clean things up rather fast. And when you look at Vico's loadout, his materials, the elimination count, things are certainly looking good for that team. But of course, Taste and Mustache are lurking in that Slappy area, so we'll see what that leads to. VENOBRON, one of my favorite players in this lobby. Very excited to see if he can do exactly what we expect them to do, right? Which is come out and impress, win some games, top the leaderboards. That's what you'd expect from QUESY and Veno.
And their consistency over the EU region has been absolutely insane. Not looking to just take part, but dominate altogether. Cement their name in the books, build their legacy. Hellsfire and Refsguard. Kind of qualifying on the lower end of players throughout the last 2 days, but one thing we learned, all you need is a chance, an opportunity to play in a set lobby like this, just because I wouldn't say drastically different styles of gameplay, but you see people are making more calculated, more passive style of moves rather than just trying to go all in, trying to get these high eliminations game. And for players that have as much experience as them, that's exactly the type of style that they want to continue to play into.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of split drops when you look at today's map and how the distribution is between players all around the board. There's not necessarily a crazy amount of off-spawn battles, but you will still see people, even with the split drops, stepping on each other's toes, running into each other in certain choke points of the map. This might be an example of just that. Kiduo and Yusri in a fight now. It's actually Hyrax they're up against. Gives us some control, Kiduo. He will be very cautious about the peaks and the edits that he takes. Doesn't want to get caught out, even with the reserve and shields he has.
Oh, this is their chance, though. Hyrax is on the other side. If they spot this opportunity to take the 2v1 against Dirt, which is looking like what they're doing, trying to get into the box. There's only one player to try to defend, but a nice opportunity there as the pieces above. Hyrax with shot, trying to take the different angle. Great job thinking outside of the box, trying to keep himself alive. Knock for knock, blow for blow. 1v1 this one's coming down to, but does he not see him in the cone right behind him? A nice opportunity to sneak attack, but the shots will continue. This one will continue on as Kaidu is now under pressure, forced to back up. Hyrax hot on his heels. Once you do that amount of damage, you don't want to let the opportunity escape you.
I love the way Hyrax is playing this. He's done a brilliant job to isolate the 2 1v1s, and he gets in and cleans things up. You would never really expect a player to win in that situation, but the way Hyrax just took different angles, hit the right shots, big shots at that, and now there is still hope for them in this game. Look at this. Drops down, catches them, they didn't even expect it, and he moves back down to a different angle, and they just get caught wide asleep.
Bro, that was
brilliantly done.
He read him like a book. Checked him out the library, returned him back to the lobby at a moment's notice. That is just a huge opportunity, because I was talking about it was he who was separated from his teammate, who got 2v1. If they would have went back to the lobby, you definitely would think he'd get an earful, as Zangi and Zara now under pressure, 2 different angles. Paco Marine, one on the same layer, the other one just a few inches higher, trying to put the pressure from the 2 different angles, and the shots are going to go through. 66 shield disappears right off. They're fighting in the storm, and you see another team slowly but surely closing in on the gap. The longer this one takes, you know how that story goes.
Yeah, and you see Moran very cautious of where Zangi's position was. Zangi was trying to just sneak around, see if he could catch him out, but Moran always going to be very, very alert in those kind of situations. And he's now on the hunt. If he can hit another shot here, you think that is it. Yep, the knock comes through. Zangi will fall. Orion, always going to be ruthless in these kind of storm fights. Doesn't want to let his opponents breathe. And for Zara, he's just going to have to hope that they leave him alone. Don't even go on the hunt. Don't look to try and clean him up.
probably think he's nearby. And how much time he has is definitely up to how much heals he has on him, but you can kind of see they know that where he can go right now, the options are very, very limited. You see them trying to look, seeing did he swim away. They don't spot him out, and that's exactly where you would typically just completely look straight down low. The most obvious spot, Mariah not checking it just yet. And it does look like for now, Zara is gonna live.
Oh, buddy, oh, pal, I'm sure he was sweating there as he heard Marine just above him. No, he will be heard now. The Sankyu comes through, and Marine making quick work of Zara there. So, his third of the game, not too shabby. They now have to get towards the zone, but things are certainly looking on the up for that duo.
Yeah, unfortunately enough, he didn't have any heals. He had to make a move. It was that, or just go down to the zone. Either way, as Revsguard, Hellfire, they're doing a good job so far, just trying to bypass everybody around, get to the zone as quick as possible. That's going to be the key for a lot of these teams, and some of the action, because this is how action-packed the mid to late game does tend to get. Marius with great shots being landed. They take out another full duo. That's important Storm Surge for them and their journey to the center.
Yes, nice mechanics on display there. Of course, as much as there's many different aspects to competitive play, one of the most satisfying things to watch in all of Fortnite is just to see someone completely piece up their opponent and hit a big shotgun shot. Oh, we see that here from Hellfire and Revsguard. Hellfire certainly has that kind of firepower, but with Revsguard down, he needs to try to create some space. His teammate's going to get limbs completely taken out of the game. So now a lot of pressure here on Revsguard, or I mean on Hellfire. Revsguard's just going to have to watch from behind.
Yeah, that was a huge find as well as Astral does get the Shockwave Hammer. Along with that elimination, you see Hellfire going down as well to Deceptos. So his escape comes to an end to a third party as everybody, that's exactly what happens. When you hear these fights going off in the distance, you begin to look, you get curious like a cat, and you try to close in on the distance to try to steal away Surge, to steal away the points, just like you see there as Flixie cheating, trying to steal away an opportunity, closing in, trying to take away the pieces. Podesai and X-Squeeze on the other end of this one. He's knocking on the door. Great defense for them to try to escape, taking the high ground, peeking through with landing a nice shot on the Cheatin', slowing him down just a little bit, giving them just a little bit more time to work with here as Flixie has that lower angle, trying to break through the box, building upward. Podesai here's that one coming. You see him backing up, playing defensive, and this is where he could probably peek just yet again. 71 shields. Even though it's them who are getting aggressed on, they're doing such a fantastic job on the defensive end, just pushing them back.
Yeah, brilliant defensive fighting from Podesai and Squeeze. Two of the best players when it comes to that aspect of the game. Of course, we know they have the mechanics on point, the aim on point. Squeeze especially one of those players who always expect to pack a punch. Flixie cheating though in the midst of a fight. In a fight that they may just win out. Big damage being dealt, but they have to be careful because their shields are running low and there are still players in this vicinity that could cause an issue for them.
And if they weren't here before, they're going to be there now because the zone continues to pull north, directly in the path, the Brutal Bastion. You add on the fact that they have the static launch pads as well. So for those few teams that might not have a Shockwave Hammer, you're going to be looking for this spot to try to rotate through.
Yeah, you got to start getting creative, start figuring out how exactly you get to zone, especially with all these different teams around you. Don't want to leave yourself too exposed, don't want to waste too many materials or maybe take too much damage and have to use the little shields you have. It's always going to be something people are taking into consideration, that management of your resources. For Frednex and Marius, though, they are on the complete opposite side of the zone. What many people would call the dead side. There aren't many players in this area, so they do have a bit more time. Don't have to be in too much of a rush. Of course, though, the zone is going to start coming, and so when that does happen, we will see them start to move. The good thing is, though, is with what they have in terms of loot, as long as they don't have to worry about Storm Surge, if they've dealt a decent amount of damage this game, they'll be in a pretty position moving forward in this one.
Almost looked like his loadout. He's playing the solid gold playlist right there for a second as Mr. Savage and iDrop. Another team that had a few struggles last week being contested. This time around, you can see them switching it up, trying to go for an early rotate, get out of the POI, try to go for the Storm Surge elsewhere on the map, 107 above. It's enough to let them feel comfortable, but at the same time, they're experts in their game. They know it's not enough compared to everybody else in the lobby once it comes to the later zones.
Oh boy, how many times have you seen this one, Jacob? QUESY based up high in the sky with vision of all the lobby around him and the potential to just wreak havoc on players just down there below. It's like a bird's eye view for him up here. He sees all. And he needs to start hitting some shots to pair with it, though. Nicely done. You see Veno just a bit low up. changing up the angles a bit, but they are covering a lot of ground from that spot.
This is where you got to be preparing for the future right now, and that's why I like QUESY is so high in the sky, because he's getting the information not only of the players, but where the possible rotates are next. This could be moving zones up and down mountains.
Yeah, and you see Pink and Neb here. They're not looking too great when it comes to their HP, what they have to work with in terms of materials. This was not the favorable zone for them. The zone is all the way here in the north of the map. We know they started the game down in the south. They've had to do so much to get to this point. And so desperation going to start to kick in. They need to find something, and fast. Both of them, though, great playmakers in their own rights. And so I expect to see them start to connect with something. There are plenty of opportunities. There's so many low plays. Pink with a little crack there. That will help in terms of surge, but he wants more than just that. Maybe he wants an elimination, something that maybe he can grab onto. It will be very difficult, though. So many players with their eyes on this spot. And if you're Ludwig down there, you're just going to hope that they start running out of ammo and stop shooting you, because the pressure is relentless right now. Barely just holding on.
And what we're watching right now is even if they survive, their game from here on out has been changed for good, using a lot of resources just to stay alive. They're going to have to look for some sort of siphon, some sort of refresh as Cammy, Seti, 364 above the damage threshold before it deactivates. They know they got themselves off to a great start. Consistency is key for them. I just want to see them mix in those eliminations. That'll naturally present itself as this game does continue. Merstash and Tayson. You saw them early on getting their own Storm Surge, 2 eliminations for Merstash so far. This is going to be a big opportunity for all these teams to really start off with their confidence at high.
Yeah, Merstash, it was an Excalibur rifle. Just making him a bit wary of how he positioned himself, and so looking to regroup now with Tayson. And of course, this duo always going to be a scary sight in these games. If you're on one of those mid to low layers in endgame, you always have to worry about whether or not that team is going to be knocking on your door. And do you have the answers for them? Once they do, oftentimes it's a no. Such a powerful duo.
That's the interesting thing about week to week. Got these powerful duos trying their best to perform. See Thomas and Malibu close by, Squeeze and Podesai using every single one of their charges when it comes to the Shockwave Hammer, trying to get themselves as far to the other side of the zone as possible. That almost leads me to believe that they possibly using that forecast augment.
Yeah, this is a telltale sign of a team that has forecast. You saw they have the hammers, and so they're living the good life. They can go anywhere they want in this lobby. You saw how proactive, how fast they look to move, and just with how specific the positioning is, you would love to think that the zone, that 5th zone, the 50-50 half in, half out, is probably going to pull towards that northeast, or northwest, sorry, I should say. Never been good with compasses, me. Frednex and Marius, also in a very similar area, and so, again, a team who we already highlighted looking very good. Look at it, they're playing that solid gold. Are very much going to be happy with what they're working with and where they're positioned.
Another team that might be happy, Andalix and Snazy. Last time we saw them, it was at the very beginning, looting up, trying to set themselves up for a good game, and 4 eliminations, 420 above the damage threshold. They set themselves up quite rightly. As you see them putting the shots on the eye drop into the distance. And I like the big bush bomb in the box, makes it harder for people to pick through when they're trying to go ahead and sneak through those shots. But now they set their eyes on a couple of teams and players that are down below. And that's the beauty. They can set their eyes on everybody and just target exactly who they want. Paco Moraine, only 2 above. Sooner or later, they're going to have to get active because you don't want to fall below that threshold in a lobby this stacked.
You certainly don't, and we saw this team fighting a bunch this game, right? They have 4 eliminations. Typically, you'd associate a team at this stage in the game with that many eliminations. You'd think there's no way you could possibly be in surge troubles. Nevertheless, they're here, and they have to start hitting shots. The players are there to connect with. Merstash and Tayson giving them that opportunity, but they aren't quite able to connect with anything. That assault rifle isn't really connecting. The good thing about where they're positioned, though, Jacob, is that they do have a clear path to the zone. They can rotate down this mountain. Nobody in the lobby really has much vision of them. So they can get to the 50-50 zone pretty well, and maybe even position themselves to deal with their surge issues once they make it in.
Got to be careful, though. You have to be careful and cognizant of the fact that if this one pulls up, you put yourself so far down the mountain, you have to have some sort of trick up your sleeve, some sort of plan B for when push comes to shove. So everybody's just trying to get themselves that sneaky good layer as high off the ground as possible. So that way they don't have to deal with the madness if it does go and pull down low. It's going to be a roller coaster of a zone if I've ever seen one myself. As he's trying to gather the information, spotting those duos that nearby. Over peaks, Andalix takes a big shot.
Yeah, this zone, this next zone is going to be so critical to how this game plays out. Andalix You saw him hunting, searching. He was very much looking to try to find something because they're running low on materials. But Stash and Tayson will be doing a very similar thing, but from a very different position, up above in the skies. They control height for the meantime. Will they be able to hold on to it, though? Will they play this right? Of course, we know there's so many different height titans in this lobby. Malibuka and Thomas, maybe not the height titans in this game, but certainly titans of the lobby, titans of EU, and titans of the world. Not the best of weeks in week one, but here is a chance for redemption. Here is a chance for change and solidification of a spot in the FNCS final.
And looking at Thomas and Malibuka's loot compared to Fred next here, they might have to go for some sort of refresh throughout the course of this one, especially with the zone moving down the mountain. It's going to make it hard for anybody to try to survive as the fight's going to break down for height. Cammy's trying to survive. You see he lost SETI along the way. He did get a knock onto one player. Is he going to be able to clean it up? That's going to be the thing as multiple players just trying to break in. Shockwave hammers going out. Cammy is now pausing in his decision here. Do I continue to play aggressive? Do I let this one slip through? The choices are definitely his, and this is going to implicate a lot of what happens here in the rest of the game.
Yeah, Cammy's going to have to reach deep into his clutch bag if they're going to make anything of this game. Thomas and Malibuka, they keep it moving. They're running, they're scurrying through, up and down. Don't have much bills to work with, and so they are going to go the cheap route. But lo and behold, look who's up here on height. Is there any real surprise here? QUESY and Veno up above the skies. They might need to connect because people are chopping it down. We know those hammers will do that. Well, Texas right below is going to cause them issues as well.
Yeah, but they're experts. They know how to hold on for it. You see Veno staying towards the back, QUESY towards the front, Mars staying alive down low towards the low ground. Finds a huge elimination onto Astral. Those are much-needed resources for him in the rest of the game, or Stash falls as well. Tayson has to do everything now as a solo without a Shockwave Hammer. He has to try to get into the zone. No more splash to generate health. Huge shot onto a player right in front of him, but he cannot finish that one off. 20 HP. He gets dropped down a couple of layers as well. He goes ultimate low ground without no build, without any resources, hoping for a miracle to present itself. Spots out Analyx, knows he cannot just get that green light just yet.
Tayson, the lone assassin here in this one. The minis will allow him to get some extra HP, but he needs more than just that. He needs a lifeline in this game, and that will come at the hands of him. And a shotgun shot, no, it does not connect. It's going to be his old teammate, Thomas HD, that picks him up. And he's no stranger to hitting big shotgun shots. He still does have Malibuka in this game. This duo is still alive and kicking. The hammer will allow them to keep it moving.
Yeah, that was the lucky thing there for Malibuka and Thomas. Not only did they turn and burn, keeping him alive. That Shockwave Hammer getting the front side of zone is QUESY, Veno. They have the high ground. They've held on to it zone after zone up until this point. I dare anybody to challenge them as they continue to put the pressure on everybody below. A huge refresh and a find on the Analyx as Thomas keeping himself alive.
Thomas, we know how much he likes to hustle. And there's plenty of hustle and bustle left in this game. Malibuka's finally fallen. He needs something. He needs to get into the zone. Time is ticking. He's falling. Just 7 HP, and Thomas will fall.
And Malibuka went down. He was the one that had that Shockwave Hammer. Down goes their run from the start of the game to the end. Kylie trying to make the run happen. 4 eliminations as a team. 3 on his own. 10 builds, but he's trying to be very resourceful here in this situation. Only use what he has to. Continues the Shockwave up. This is his chance to try to surprise any team that he's able to break through.
Kylie's so desperate in this situation. He needs something to work for him. He needs a lifeline. He needs some hope, and hope is far from him when Veno is up above you and in your face. This is a duo that is scary. No materials right now, but you wouldn't even think it from how confident they are. They need to just keep hitting shots, and the shots will continue to rise. Snazy down below. He's looking for something with Analyx out of this game. And something may just be right around the corner. You see him taking shots onto walls, but it is a full duo, so he might have to be a bit more patient, a bit more calm, try and hide his way to some placement points here, as Ping is doing right here on our screens.
And it's better than nothing right now as he's just trying to escape. He's just trying to go unnoticed. Zone's pulling back. Veno's dropping down low. 2v1, QUESY and Veno versus Snazy. And they end that one rather quickly just as Vexy takes out Podesai. The lobby getting thinner and thinner with the same team from 5th zone on, holding that high ground, continuing the pressure from every lone player that's down below. One duo, one solo, and the world is theirs.
There's nothing more painful than getting pinched in an endgame by QUESY and Veno as they start to drop down and wreak havoc. Now it's the final 2v2. Vexy and the Buell, they've been so impressive so far this game, but are they a match for one of the best teams in the world, if not the best team in the world? Can they handle it? Will they rise to the occasion? It's getting very hot here. But Vexy still has a chance, and with the hammer, they'll look to make a play instantly, being humbled and sent back down. QUESY and Veno, they don't play no games, but can they close it out? That is the question here.
Question that will be answered shortly as they continue to shockwave up. I like how they have no resources down low, but still trying to be proactive to take over this game. But they have the Titans on top. QUESY and Veno, cool as a cucumber, patient as can be, not making any mistakes. VENOBRON gets knocked down though. The ball is stuck outside his zone, and game number 1 goes to QUESY and Veno.
A brilliant first game from a team that we know can impress on any given stage. I am very much looking forward to seeing them continue to do this, Jacob. This is no one-off. This is no surprise. They are the dominant force here today.
I was just thinking throughout that one. Oh, looking at my watch. It's about time. QUESY Veno, when the moving zones begin, that's when they really put their foot on that pedal. Dropping down low only when needed, staying towards the high ground. Throughout this endgame, they've played literally 3 to 4 different styles of play to take home the first.
Yeah, they are just on an absolute tear this season. Every given opportunity, just showcasing why they are scary. We talk about this combination and why it's unfair almost, right? You have the best IGL in the game with the best fragger in the game. In theory, they should just be the best team in the game, and right now, they're the best team in this lobby. You got to think as well that will continue throughout today.
Yeah, and I was asking around, what storylines are you excited for? EU, tell me what you got. The community said it loud and clear. QUESY and Veno's domination of EU. We know they're on top after that one, but Zeke, Miniminer, Vivid, what else do you have on that leaderboard?
All of the things, but first, of course, QUESY and Veno, they decided, oh, week 2, FNCS time, you said? Yeah, I would start with a victory round. Just a casual victory round, not a big deal. They just held it for so long. I mean, you just kept looking up. Anytime we would cut to a watch, I'd be like, oh, yep, they're still up there. No one's doing anything about it.
No, the turning point was, right, like me and Miniminer, we blinked, right, we looked at each other, we looked back at the screen, and all of a sudden, QUESY and Veno were on high ground, like, oh, how did that happen?
Yeah, they were on ultimate low ground at one point in this zone, then we switched back to them, and they're on high ground somehow, and that is exactly what this team do. They are like magicians, just able to magic themselves all the way up onto high ground, and that is exactly what they do best. And what I really like about the way they played this endgame is this is classic Veno and QUESY. They're able to pinch players down below, right? They're dropping down, each of them going on a singular wall, and they're able to pressure from 2 different angles. Of course, when you have the best fragger in the game, Veno, we know what he can do. And of course, QUESY with that big brain, just knowing exactly when to drop in, pick up the refreshes, kept them afloat, kept them alive, and kept them in the game to win the game.
Yeah, 100%. And to close that out right there, very, very clean as well, right? VENOBRON, the hammers were coming in. It was pretty much the last ditch effort that they really had to contest that higher ground. But QUESY and Veno, they just kept going up, using those old builds, making sure they separated themselves, make sure those shockwave hammers could not actually reach them, and that's why they secured that victory royale.
I mean, that's going to leave them in that first place spot here on the leaderboards, but
it's close.
It's very close, because Ping, we saw him there. It's all those eliminations, right? We saw him as a solo player there, make it up into that top 5, and I mean, at that point, the damage is done, right? I've made it enough. I've got eliminations. I've hit that high placement. I'm going to be up in the standings.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, shout out to Ping, right? Because we kind of saw him kind of on the low ground right there, ratting around, and the jokes get made, right? Oh, you know what I mean? He's not going to get much out of us, but I think he was actually in like 6th place, and he actually ended up getting into 3rd right now, which is why we can see them in 2nd place and even really close, 1 point behind QUESY and Veno.
Yeah, I mean, that's just playing the format, right? We know how valuable eliminations are in this particular format, and they've just proved how well that they can pick up those eliminations. Hopefully, they'll be able to continue. Of course, that was a very, very difficult zone for them. Of course, another team, Malibuka, Thomas HD, we're really excited about this duo coming into today. Last week, not the greatest performance, but a solid start from this duo.
Yeah, they're up here. I mean, it's just on the back foot of, right, making sure they had that early storm surge strategy dealt with. We saw them very, very early on getting a bunch of tags, and then the cohesion that they kept finding each other in this endgame and making sure that any play that they made was one that was well thought out and done together.
Yeah, and you know what that is? There's 2 IGLs coming together. Of course, we know how well that Thomas HD can lead. We know how well that Malibuka can lead. And sometimes that can butt heads almost. You can sort of have a conflict of opinion. You can have a conflict of plays. But in this instance, we can see them just doing it so often. And we didn't really get to see it last week, them in this situation in the end game. But the way they bounce off each other, the way that they can actually connect with each other at the moments where it matters most is unstoppable. And of course, Vivid, 2 incredible solo players. You have to have confidence in both of them.
Yeah, right. One goes down and you're like, listen, we're still a duo pretty much at this point because our solo play level is just that high.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, another duo, Snazy and Alex, right? I mean, just a lot of names that we're like used to seeing here in EU really saying, all right, week 2, we have to come out and start strong.
Yeah, veterans on the region, of course. We know all about this duo. And, of course, rotating quite a distance to get to this zone. Of course, such a difficult rotation for them. But Snazy clutching up in the final few moments, using the bush here almost as well to keep himself protected. Of course, picking up that refresh at the perfect moment on Thomas HD. We saw it, unfortunately, for him. But Snazy just clutching up so well.
Yeah, a little bit of revenge there, because we did see Thomas take down his teammate, of course, a little bit earlier. But, I mean, Snazy just being put in this situation. You can see top left, the placements, they just keep going down and down and down. He's just securing all of those points, which is why we see them find themselves in 4th place after just game number 1. I mean, and of course, you know, you got to face up against Veno and QUESY right at the end there. Veno's on one wall, QUESY's on the other. Not much you could do at that point.
Yeah, that's right. It's the final bosses of the lobby, right? QUESY and Veno, of course, just looking to just dominate once again, just kind of do what they do on the daily basis, you know? My question, though, about them is now, can they keep this up, right? We sometimes see them start really strong and then start to lose a little bit of gas, but maybe that won't happen here.
No, I mean, QUESY and Veno are known for always going for high ground. They're known for always being able to just find themselves up on high ground. I mentioned the joke was made. I blinked and they were up there. I'm sure that'll happen again.
I think it was almost literally, I think we literally blinked and they went on high ground. It was actually genuinely a blink and they were on high ground. Of course, the zone was in their favor that game, of course, up on that north side of the map. So I'm interested to see whether they will be able to continue if the zones start pulling a little bit more south. But this is QUESY and Veno that we're talking about. They have all of the answers to the questions that the lobby can answer them, and I'm sure they'll continue to do well.
That's right. Well, guess what? That is it for now, because we have game number 2 ready to go. How will the action continue to unfold? Let's find out in the FNCS.